Here.
Hayes.
Here.
Osmanski. Stevens.
Here. Everybody stand with me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have anybody here tonight for public forum? Public forum? Public forum.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Rauch, and I am a proud volunteer with the Romeo DDA Events Committee. We are excited. This is just a volunteer's perspective. We're very excited about Winterfest. It promises to be a fun, family-friendly event in downtown Romeo. Volunteers, organizations, and businesses have been cooperating and working together to bring many creative ideas to life. It is like a beehive when we all get together and people just come up with these amazing ideas, and to have everybody there who can orchestrate and visualize how these ideas can come to life. It's just very exciting and amazing. And then when you get these organizations and businesses to cooperate as well, it's really beautiful. The 5K is growing in popularity, and excited that it will be benefiting the high school cross-country team. My daughter was in cross-country. There will be wagon rides, a chili cook-off, another way for the public to get involved in presenting their chili for the contest, as well as tasting the chili. So excited. There will be wagon rides, and the library is involved in, I forgot what they call it, but strolling downtown and reading pages of a book as they go around the downtown area. The activities there will be activities throughout the day, which is nice, so it's not just go there for one thing and then have a lull. There'll be something happening throughout the day from 10 to 5. And it's a beautiful way to showcase what a wonderful community that you have here, and you should be very proud as well.
Thank you. Anybody else for public forum?
If I may.
Yep.
I am Deborah McLeod, and I own Embedded Logics, which is the business above Paramount on the Main Street corner there. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the alley closure or leaving it open. And my company, Embedded Logics, has a global reach to multi-billion-dollar energy suppliers, but our headquarters is here in Romeo because we like the small town feel of that, and so do our clients. And most of our visitors are in their 20s and 30s. They're very young in the energy industry these days, and they're shocked the first time they visit. They always say, "Why have I never heard of Romeo?" And we say, "Because we like it that way." We always grab a cup of coffee in the morning at Main Street before our meetings start, and we go to lunch at Office Pub or Four Corners or wherever. And at the end of a long day, we'll settle down for a nice dinner at Younger's and some drinks. And I just love the way this village is going. I've seen it at its worst decades ago, and I've seen it now, and I would like to see the current revitalization of downtown continue, and even double down over the next 4 years with Megan and the new council that's together, and some of the existing members. And the very active DDA is such a blessing to the village and to enhance our village personality as we manage growth. Having traveled all over the world during my career, there's one thing that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt. Villages are going to grow, whether we like it or not, they're going to grow, and there is no stopping that. So the focus has to be on how we grow and maintaining the character of our village. And I would just like to see a plan that encourages small, privately owned restaurants, discouraging franchises and commercial chain stores and stuff like that. And I would like the plan to include places together outside without being run over, which would be really nice. Closing some of these alleys that are a little dangerous. And like I said, having spent 40 years in my career in Europe and Scandinavia, but even right here in the US, which is actually where most of my software is installed, is in the US, I visit all these little tiny communities all over the United States every 5 years. So I get a chance to see what have they done over the last 5 years to manage their growth. Because the reason I'm there is they're growing, so we're adding, more electrical power, more monitoring. So I see this. Some of them fall down and they get awful, and the growth is very random, and they just look very blighted very quickly. And then others are adorable, and they've done a really good job of keeping their cuteness and their attractiveness of their village. And I just want to really see that happen here. Pedestrians are what drive this. Getting rid of traffic and getting more pedestrians. And one of the big ways to do that is managing the crosswalks and managing the alleys. In Royal Oak, Michigan, they have the right-of-way for the pedestrians. The minute pedestrians step into the crosswalk, vehicular traffic has to stop or you will get a ticket. It doesn't matter what state the light is in. So what happens is, it makes traffic move very slowly through Main Street in Royal Oak. And so people who are just driving through to go somewhere else, go around. Is that so horrible? I think that's awesome. Let's get rid of the giant tandem trucks and all the stuff that are driving through downtown while we're trying to eat on the sidewalks at these restaurants. So anyway, really successful villages charm you down their alleys too. So to get from parking to Main Street, you shouldn't have to walk the entire length of a block on a cold, blustery day like today or in a rainstorm. You need these alleys to make a charming entrance out to the Main Street. And down these alleys, these businesses can get some attention. These little clusters of businesses are what keep people interested in downtown. One of the things that I did this weekend is I went and met with Sam from Buscemi's, because it was 2 months ago that he was in here talking about, he thinks that the alley being closed is hurting his business. And I talked to him at length on Saturday and explained to him that I eat 3 times a day in the village, every day, coffee, lunch, breakfast, dinner, whatever. And anybody who knows me in the village knows I walk 1 to 3 miles every day. I walk all over the village, discovering, cool places I didn't know were there and stuff. And I never go down that alley to the Shane's, never. Because it's so blighted looking. Who wants to walk down that alley? I mean, I'm willing to walk anywhere, and I never walk down there. And I told him that alley needs to look cute. It needs to have trees going down it. It needs to have a destination. When you're walking down the sidewalk, you should see a sign that says, these businesses are that way. The Four Corners, the Buscemi's. I don't even know what else is back in that back row, because I never go back there. Why would I? And that's not good. We need to work on that. And I would like to offer my help. I know I'm not DDA, I know I'm not on the council or anything like that, but I have, I think, a unique perspective from the fact that I work in little villages all over the world, because those are my customers. And we have the cutest little village I've ever seen, and I want to make sure it stays that way. And I've got colleague friends who are architects, they manage traffic, they manage alleys and right-of-ways and stuff like that, and they're willing to do the work for free if we'll let them come in, look at the alleys, look at the traffic situation, and see what we should do to drive pedestrians down these alleys to places like Four Corners and Buscemi's and stuff like that. So these people stand a chance to have their businesses survive. But anyway, I go on about other things that I think we should try to work on, but I won't go through all of that. But anybody wants to give me their email, I'd be happy to send out more information. But more than anything, I just want to volunteer my help. I would just love to help the city council, the president of the village, anybody who needs any kind of help. I would love to be involved. So think of me as a resource, please. Thank you very much for your time.
Anybody else for public forum?
My name is Paul Bowers. I am not new to Romeo. I've been here my whole life. I graduated from Romeo High School. I know most of the people on the panel. I know a lot of people on the trustee board. I have had some successful businesses. I decided to bring my money back to Romeo. I just want to introduce myself. I bought Locke's Cleaner Building and the building next door, and I've been excited to see what the DDA has been doing. The park looks amazing. Obviously, it's right next to my buildings. I also invested heavily in Washington, so I'm excited to see what you guys are going to do in the future. My plan is to bring my development skills back to Romeo and do it the right way. I'm not an out-of-towner. I've been here my whole life, so just wanted to introduce myself.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Anybody else for public forum? Thank you, everyone. Can I get an approval of the revised agenda, please?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Zach, support by Megan. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. On to the minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes in there for the December informational meeting and then the December regular meeting. I'd like to make a motion to approve both sets of these minutes.
Real quick, before you make that motion, the regular meeting, it looks like Brant's name was left off. He was there on the informational meeting, but none of his, he's not on any of the votes. And it's not marked that he's absent, so I'm assuming it's just an oversight, so I guess.
Are you talking about for the regular minutes?
Yeah. So I
Okay.
think he just, so if we could just add him to that.
So that's there.
Right.
So amending to include
Brant
Carl
as present,
present.
and I guess I'm assuming the nays as none is correct, but he would just be added to that.
So, could we, could we say, motion to approve, if you want to do them separately, it would be
You
cleaner
want to
for the
do-
minutes.
okay.
Yeah, would that be okay?
Okay,
All right.
all right. First up, let's have a motion to approve the minutes from the informational meeting on Monday, December the 5th. I'll make the motion. Megan supported. Everybody in favor? Okay, now on to the regular meeting minutes. To Zach's point, we're going to add Carl was present.
So do you want to amend the motion to say, motion to approve draft minutes of Monday the 5th as amended to include Brant as president? Is that all right? Yeah, okay. Now we just need somebody to make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Is that John, is that you?
Yep.
Okay.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me, Helen,
Yep.
I hate going backwards and slap my wrist because I don't think you're allowed to, but tonight's
I'm
agenda.
not allowed to slap your wrist?
Tonight's agenda, I'm gonna
Yes.
go backwards. We've got unfinished business, we've got 2 A's, a B and C.
Okay.
We need to
Yeah.
formally make that change, or is that?
Let's
I
move
think it's a
everybody.
typographical error.
Yeah.
A, B, C, D. Yep.
I'm sorry for that.
Okay. The financial report. Elizabeth?
Yes. Okay, so, the financial statements are year-to-date from July 1, 2022 to December 31, 2022. All transactions are included. The credit balance for the unemployed insurance account has a credited balance, so there was a refund given of $308. Total bills for approval is $5,839.57. As you see, the work that was completed is right there, and this was all submitted by Daniel Kelly from Plant Marin. Are there any questions? They're the smallest credit card statement we've seen in a very long time, so a whopping $251.
I've asked when it's been too large, so I'll ask since it's too small, what's going on?
It took some time off. Christmas was there, and, yeah, so. That could be why. And there was a, no, that was, never mind. It was
That's
a
the
month before.
payment.
Yep. Oh, and it was also a little bit lower because for one of our event committee meetings, Madison Roush, our admin and events coordinator, decided to bring in homemade goodies and hot cider one day, so we didn't get anything out that day, so that reduced a little bit too.
What was the $600 to the Village of Romeo?
That was for rent,
Oh, okay.
leased office space. The last the 2 years, I believe the 2 or 3 years prior, it was paid in a 1 year loan, so.
Okay.
So we just followed the same protocol that was done before.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills as presented in the amount of $5,839.57. Roll call, please.
Okay, Poznanski? Yes. Rose?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Tar?
Yes.
And Stevens?
Yes. Executive Director report.
Okay. Oh, this has been off the whole time, sorry. Okay, so this is the shortest director's report you've seen from me, also reflecting that we took a little bit of time off. But Downtown Romeo in the news. Downtown Romeo was included in a wonderful article by visitdetroit.com. Several of our restaurants, shops, and new events were featured. See the excerpt on the following page, and the full article can be found online. That was a nice surprise. On January 18th, I'm excited to announce that I'm going to be interviewed a lot again, but this time it's going to be for an exclusive podcast on Michigan in my downtown, so that's INMI downtown. It is the Michigan Downtown Association's podcast, and so it will be exclusive to just downtown DDA for Romeo only. So the whole thing will all be about us. Release is slated to be at the end of January. Our online newsletters via MailChimp continue to be an effective way to communicate with our central business district and the general newsletter. We're hearing from quite a few businesses that it's nice to see the information, like our flyers for Winterfest and such, be right embedded in there, or having links, and so things get buried in email, and so it's popping out a lot quicker, and so they're enjoying that. Community collaboration. Madison and I enjoyed participating in the Santa Parade and the tree lighting ceremony on December 1st, along with our dancing snowmen and Olaf. They had a lot of fun. I know I mentioned it before, but it wasn't put in the director's report. The Romeo District Library Christmas Story Walk was a huge success, and this year's book, I did not finish the sentence. This year's book was titled Night Before Christmas, not 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. We're going to be working with the MIT-TV and Macomb County on promotional materials and marketing ideas in the next few months. Added to that community collaboration, we've already had a meeting with the Romeo District Library. We plan to meet with the Lions and also the Masonic Lodge and Starkweather to put our calendars together so that when events are coming, they know when to schedule it. So for example, with the Romeo District Library, they've committed to doing 4 story walks in downtown in 2023. They've committed to sponsoring one of the 8 concerts in the park series in the Village Park and so forth. And they're very happy for this because it can help them plan their calendars and also get us in their newsletters too. So we're hoping to also accomplish that with other community organizations. Downtown beautification, all of the Christmas lights and decor were removed on Friday, and so those are all down, the ones that were with our contracts. So everything looked festive and wonderful. Carl Brandt and his team of volunteers did a wonderful job installing the Christmas tree shaped light displays. Some of those are still up, which is nice to see. The library put one up down at the Kezar Library, so those were all nice. So we're thankful to Carl and Andrew and anyone else who might have helped them put those things up. Christmas banners were also removed last year and stored until next year, so big thanks to our Department of Public Works crew for taking care of that. And 4 Winterfest banners were put up along with the 2 large over-the-street banners were put up and Bruce Township Fire Department continues to do that and do it as part of training, so we don't get charged for that, which is nice. And then we're working on sponsorship opportunities and forms. We have some draft still in place, but we already have several people who, businesses, Youngers just joined us today, but all of these sponsors on the bottom of all of our Winterfest, some of them are in kind, others are partnership, but we've had several monetary sponsors as well. And as you see, there's the events committee report from Madison is on the next sheet. And we're, full speed ahead for Winterfest. We're excited. The 5K is getting a lot of attention. It's going out to over, I think she said 10,000 Michigan runners this week. It's going in the newsletter. And they are capping their entries at 200, and they're already at 95. And they said most of the entries happen the last 2 weeks, or the 2 weeks prior to a race. So they're excited about that.
What's the course?
Right in town. I can't say. It starts right on North Main Street and ends right on North Main Street, so. So John, get ready.
I was gonna say, great job on that 5K run, that's what I've heard on the street, the biggest buzz. Because it's so unique, so new, it's a perfect spot for it, so.
Gee, should we put a challenge up to this board to run that?
Hey, I've already registered. Who's gonna run with me?
I plan on doing it, I guess, like the children judges.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Yes, judges for the
We're
children.
gonna run fast.
I could, we could use some help. We have a sign up genius. It's on the RomeoWinterfest.com website. You can click on the volunteers. There's a sign up genius put on there that Madison put together. I would love to see some board members volunteer for some different things, and community members, of course, as well. And the slots are filling up quickly, so we're excited about that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Funding requests. I see Grace here.
Hello, I'm Grace Benet. I'm the secretary at Starkweather. Our mission is to support the arts in Romeo. So we had an artist come to us. His name is Roger Meeker. He's with the Detroit area woodturners. He did a couple of other projects around Starkweather. You might have noticed the giraffe and the Good Fortune chime that he just installed. And he's looking at another project, but he's hoping for support for this one. So I became aware very recently of the second phase of the Michigan Arts and Culture Council. It formerly was called MACCA, but now it's MAC, M-A-C-C. It's an arts project mini grant. It's a competitive grant program that provides support for art that promotes public engagement, and it's for up to $4,000. It's a one-to-one matching grant. I've written grants with them before. They're who helped us get our roof. They're who helped us get our frontage redone. It's not a fun grant to write, but I could do it. It's due this coming Saturday, January 15th. It's an online grant. So the project that he had in mind was, so he's starting to do metal work more. And he was thinking about doing a large letter R. And this is what he wrote. The R would be a three-dimensional framework of steel with square bar stock and round rod. It would be 5 to 7 feet tall, 2 to 4 feet wide, and 4. It would be a silhouette that would be thicker, and then the inner framework would be horizontal round rods that go across that are a structural element, but also for the purpose of displaying local business chains or things. People do this. So that was some of the idea to have this R. So the total cost would be no more than $2,000. That would include either a powder coat, anti-rust paint, or you could allow it to naturally rust if you like that patina. So I was going to see if you were interested in this project. I would write the grant for $1,000, and then we'd need another $1,000 to match that. Starkweather could put forth $500, so I'm looking for another $500. And also your input is if something you even are interested in, and if you are interested in it, Where could you see it put?
So Grace, you want me to speak to our conversation?
Sure.
Okay, so she approached me, we got an email, and we kind of went back and forth, and it was an immediate, like, this is a great, what a wonderful idea. It is something that obviously the board has to agree to. I imagine village council would have to agree to that, because if it's in, this would be a permanent piece, correct? It's not a temporary one that you would lift up and move
It would
somewhere
be
else?
cemented, it would have a cement base, a steel plate, he said, and then it would be bolted to concrete pads. It'd be pretty hard to pick up and move, yeah, because it's gonna probably be about 5 feet, and, you know. And then it would have to be monitored, I guess, to some degree, you know.
So we decided to bring it to you.
I'm all for it. I know we have it as a funding request, but usually we require like that form to be filled out ahead of time, so I don't know if we can just call this like a joint project, and that way we don't have to, because we're usually pretty, you know, strict on that, and follow the guidelines of filling out the funding request ahead of time for our approval, but I know we're on a tight timeline, so I don't see why we couldn't just call it a joint project and commit to the 500.
But you don't need the money unless you get the grant, correct?
Correct.
So we wouldn't have to
Correct.
commit the funds until the grant's approved.
I also have
Okay,
a
so it's
question
just-
in here. It says you'd be willing to write the grant for 1,000. We would need to look for the commitment of an additional 1,000. Did you mean 500?
I think they're doing
Well,
500.
we would put 500, and we're asking if you
Right,
would
but
put
she said we
500.
would need to look for commitment for the additional 1,000. I think that should be 500. Right?
I probably didn't word it
Okay.
correctly, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I see
Yeah.
both sides. Yeah, I
Yeah.
see what you're saying.
So yeah, I guess we don't, then, if you just know we're on board to support it,
Yes.
that's all you need at this point?
Right, I can write the grant, and we'll see if it gets approval or not. Also, this grant, this is the second phase of it, because they apparently didn't get enough grants, you know, from the phase, from round 1, so they put forth a round 2. You know, if this isn't something you want to look at now, we can wait till probably, I think, August would come around again. But I've got an artist that's ready to make something, you know how that is, you know.
What spaces have you guys looked at?
I haven't.
None.
Yeah, this came up so suddenly,
Got it.
you know. That's why I was wondering if you had some ideas where you think it would be a good place to put it.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the glass bottle in the alleyway, kind of that kind of
Yes,
thought. So
mhm.
maybe an alleyway that.
That's what I was kind of thinking, was an alley, or maybe the parking lot behind Younger's, that whole area back there. There's a lot of linear space with not much there to draw people to that area. I don't know.
Sounds like we
Yeah, I
have a
mean-
field trip.
Yeah, we can be involved in that process.
Yes.
And yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't have a dog in this fight about where it goes. I don't really, you know, I'm honestly just trying to help the artist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're going to get this written by Saturday?
I think so,
Okay.
yeah. If I don't, then we'll look at August, but I think I can.
Okay, Zach, are you going to make a motion to partner with them, or do we? Because eventually
Yeah.
we're going to spend money.
Sure. All right, I will make a motion to grant Grace's request for the DDA to partner in the planning and funding of the art project that she brought forward.
I'll second that. And we have to do a roll call.
Okay, give me 1 second.
I was just in Lake Havasu and I saw some.
Yeah, I don't know where that's from. That's something I
Well,
saw on the internet.
they have a bridge they bought.
They started doing it in Rochester,
A
too.
businessman and had it moved to Lake Havasu. And, they've got some chains covered in locks. It's pretty unique. It's pretty
That's cool.
Isn't there something in Detroit too that
I don't know.
put locks on?
Those are the doors. I don't know.
Well, I was hoping also for like keychains, you know,
Right.
from businesses, and, you know, not even maybe just but local businesses, but things that people are involved
Yeah,
in,
they
that they're
have
interested in.
traveled To like signify how far they've traveled to come.
That's a good idea.
That is neat.
That's a really good idea. I just like the idea of an interactive art project that gets people
Yeah,
going to go see it and interact with it in some manner.
it's a great way to hashtag Romeo too.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
All right, Roll call.
Okay, Tar,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Poznanski,
Yes.
Stevens.
Yes.
Thank you, and I'll keep you apprised of what's going on.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Grace, for that. Okay, committee reports. I know the policy committee does not have a report. Does the parking committee?
We haven't met since our
Last
last
meeting.
meeting, but I would definitely like to, I'm sorry, what was your name again? Yeah. Yeah, what was your name?
Deborah.
Deborah. I'd like to get Deborah's information so we can maybe bring her in for some of the next time the parking committee convenes, and we can get her input and find out a little bit more about what you found out from Sam there. Thank you.
Okay. Unfinished business, Marketplace Alley.
Oh, you're looking to me. Oh, okay. Well, we don't,
I don't have any-
we don't have any supporting documents for this. I think, we were looking for some, direction as far as, I guess, what you all want to do with this. We attempted to, well, I shouldn't say attempted, I did reach out to the Buscemi's owner, and he wasn't interested in meeting with the board, so I appreciate, Deborah, you, doing that of your own accord.
We had a very, very good conversation.
That's awesome.
Invest in some chairs and tables out front and stuff, if it could be allowed.
So, looking for board, I guess.
I guess this
don't-
goes back to the parking committee convening again and talking with her, Deborah, before our,
Yeah, just to refresh my memory, where are we with the village on that? When is the,
February 28th, I believe, is the
It was extended to
expiration.
the end.
okay.
Mhm.
So is this something the board wants to continue the conversation on a permanent closure, or do we let it expire?
I personally I think we should let it expire, and then once we have more information on our end available to have all of our ducks in a row, to approach the village again based on what we find out, to determine if we want this to be for special occasions only or a permanent closure.
Any other input? John?
If that's the case, we should convene the parking study committee, which is, I think, the umbrella this is under, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And whoever was on that committee, and we can also get our wonderful consultant over here and ask questions, and,
Probably before the end of the month.
well, we would have to. I mean, I don't know, when you say let this expire, what does that mean? Let what expire?
They extended the closure temporarily till the end of February to get us through Winterfest.
So we have a meeting before that February 28th, correct?
Correct.
If we could have a parking study meeting, a parking study committee meeting before our next meeting, we can then come back with at least the committee's
Right.
recommendations and giving time for, before the end of the month. Is that?
So that's Greg and Zach
Myself.
and John, correct?
Carl as well.
Oh, and Carl too,
was on it.
okay. So,
Is that kinda where you're going, Zach, or were you, you
Yeah.
threw me off when you said let this expire, shouldn't we?
I-
Since we have a month before that happens, we should continue the discussion.
Yeah, no, we should definitely try to
Mhm.
meet and get it figured out before then. I'm already thinking like Winterfest, and I'm already in like February mode, so when I hear, I'm like, we don't
It's
have
just
another
January the
meeting.
9th.
I know, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah,
here.
slow it down. It didn't just happen.
But, yeah, that's fine. We'll just send out an email and figure out a time that we can all get together and
Okay, so our next
discuss.
board meeting, the
It's
parking
like-
committee will have convened and we'll have some more information to,
Well, we'll have to have a recommendation for this board
Yep,
to take to the village board.
right.
Yeah.
okay, and make sure you get Deborah's information.
He sees me now and then.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, that's right, that's the coffee shop you're stopping at, right? Okay. All right, thank you, you guys.
You could always rename that committee the Parking and Alley Committee. Parking study, but it is parking study, but whatever, we can leave it.
It's fine.
Okay.
We know where
All
they're
right,
at.
sounds good.
Okay, the DD office lease agreement. We have a month-to-month agreement, and at the council's last meeting, it was proposed that the DDA office lease be terminated. I don't know if this is coming back on board again, so if you could let us know at the moment.
It
failed all the motions, and we are where we're at.
So we're just kind of in a holding pattern right now?
Yeah, we have,
Well, we're still in a month to month,
Right,
right?
well, that's what
So,
I meant, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
there's still only 6 people on the board, so I don't see bringing it back for the same 6 people to do the same motion again.
okay. Elizabeth, did you have any input to that?
Just that, it's difficult, to know what's gonna happen from one day to the next. I mean, we need, and it's further on in the agenda, but, you know, the office has changed, the president's position has changed, and that's obvious. I mean, I will respect that position, but it's difficult when we go into a space and things are missing or moved around and there's no conversation about it. That's really difficult. As your employee, I expect to have the professional courtesy of understanding if things need to be moved or changed. If it needs to change, if the use of the space needs to change, I expect a professional courtesy of having a conversation about that. Not just finding out from a business owner that, hey, your stuff got moved out, what's going on, and we have no clue. That's very difficult. That's a very hard environment to work in, especially when we're planning an event that is gonna bring probably 5,000 to 15,000 people in a day. And a lot of our gear was taken that we need. So we have people who've come forward, which I'm grateful for, that we can use, but it's just, so it's,
We
I don't
did
know what
have
to
a
do with this.
discussion on this. We did, Zach and I meet with the president. Her opinion was that she did not have to convey that message to us ahead of time. Zach and I both disagreed with that, but we are where we are. The stuff is out at the DPW, so.
Wasn't it brought back?
No.
No, just
Okay.
my personal belongings.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm gonna ask Mr. Clark, the village attorney, sitting in the audience, that you, have an opinion on the president withholding keys and not communicating when stuff is being moved?
Well, I do, but two things. One is, I own property in the DDA, so I'm here to see how the DDA is spending the money. I'm not here as the village
Okay,
attorney.
okay.
And respectfully, it's either the village president or the village council that asks me for my opinion. I mean, no disrespect to this board, but I'm not gonna express my
You
opinion.
did give your opinion on the key situation.
Well, I'm not gonna give my opinion to the DDA on behalf of the village unless the village asks me to render that opinion.
Okay, but you did give your opinion on the key situation, and you agreed with withholding the key.
I had a discussion with your attorney about the key and about the lease.
Right,
And I did have a communication with your attorney, that's correct.
okay.
And I expressed my opinion to him. So
Well,
you
he-
probably have already asked him, but if not, you can.
Well, he
ask
already
Mr.
gave me-
Kilby And he can tell you
He
what.
gave me your opinion.
Okay,
So,
hopefully he was accurate.
well, you
Was-
were on
was
the
that,
email.
Was that shared with the rest of the board? With the-
Yeah.
all of the
You got
board?
that,
Okay,
yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was shared
Okay.
with everybody or if it was just,
Well, to ensure he's accurate and sharing your opinion, Mark, would you be willing to reiterate what you shared with him since it's out there?
Again, I'm not gonna, I have to stand on formality because I represent the village. The village is my client, and I have responsibilities to the village. I don't have legal responsibilities to the DDA. I'm concerned about what happens with the DDA because I own property in the DDA. I pay my 2 mills, and you capture probably not too much anymore because the property values went down so much after 2008. But in any event, I came here because I'm concerned about how the DDA is spending my money. I didn't come here to express an opinion on behalf of the village.
Well, right now, they're spending some of the money chasing around their belongings that were taken out of a building and moved, so just so you know, that's part of the time that's being spent in energy, which, for the record, is just unfortunate.
well, if we wanted to discuss this tonight and we already received Mr. Clark's opinion, shouldn't we have had some documentation to go along with this agenda item, so we're not just
I
speculating?
don't have any
I wasn't provided any of that information.
So, I mean, if we
It's a
have
new
it,
point, all right.
Can I pipe in?
Mm-hmm.
The words were used, we are where we are at the moment as far as our lease. And I understood tonight, we essentially have a month-to-month lease, which is great. And hopefully we can work through what do we need to do to just continue that lease. In the meantime, so we don't get caught short, which I know, Elizabeth, you've expressed to me a couple times, you know, you're kind of caught short with a couple of these issues with key and access and belongings. I feel as a board, we should be discussing a Plan B. We don't have to use this Plan B, hopefully we don't have to use this Plan B, but why are we not discussing it? I brought this up just about 30 days ago. It was actually right after the trustee meeting when there was this no motion was agreed upon, which to me was a victory, because that's where our office is, that's where our lease is, we're good. I had silence from the rest of the board with one exception. I don't understand that. It's like we're just sitting on our hands waiting for something to explode, which, let's have a contingency, let's discuss it. Let's just be open about it. And hopefully things can remain as they are. We work through the differences and the issues and whatever problems. But why are we just ignoring it and now we're gonna wait another month and then next thing you know, Elizabeth will be handicapped by not having a place to sit.
I think the answer to that, John, if you're really looking for an answer, is I think people are still sort of stunned and confused on what's going on. That's the answer.
It's been a couple months, though. I mean, how long are we gonna be stunned for?
Oh, no, it hasn't been really a couple months since the chaos.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, when were you no longer given 24/7 access? It's been 2 months, hasn't it?
It was, I don't know the date, it was,
Okay.
it was the day that she took office.
So, okay, so we've been stunned for whatever, since whenever that is. I sent an email, I'm assuming you received it. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you didn't, maybe we have email issues. And it spelled out some nice options to at least discuss. That's all I'm saying, is we should be discussing this.
and I think that's what
I
we're
mean,
getting
Greg-
there, right?
Yeah,
I think
we're on our way
Did you
there.
receive that email
I
from
did.
me? Kelly did?
I did.
I did not.
Megan, did you receive my email?
Yes.
You didn't receive my email.
I did not
We
see
may have
it.
an email issue with.
Are you saying post December 19th, 6 days before Christmas? Are you talking about the, because village council meeting was on December 19th?
Then this would have been dated December 20th.
Timing could have been a issue.
Well, okay, timing was an issue, so I'll bring it up today. And I'm
Okay.
more than happy to resend the email, and I'm proposing that we at least, as a board, start discussing what are we gonna do? Because otherwise, we're gonna handicap Elizabeth, which nobody wants to happen, and, you know,
Well, there
the
is, I mean,
trustees
we are on
obviously.
our way to that with this people, driven credit union discussion, I think.
Okay,
Under we have
There-
a new business item to discuss.
okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
So it's
Then we're
definitely
gonna-
on there, it's been on there, it's just,
Okay,
I-
there was also, with the exception of one more thing, there was also at that time put out, hey, maybe we should ask for some space where we can, whether it's storage, whether it's a desk, whether it's meetings. So, I mean, I just wanna make sure that you understand, I tried this, not 30 days ago, but on the 20th, okay? I know this week, you ran into an issue, and there was an email sent out, which I don't think had to be sent out, because we had those answers.
I think
We're working our way
we're
to
talking
that.
about that, at the very end of the agenda.
Okay.
We're getting there.
All right. So our lease, so is regarding the agenda, DDA office lease agreement, as noted in the agenda, we're good. We got month to month right now, is my understanding. And you're making arrangements if you need to have access outside of business hours, is that correct?
to have access outside
If
of
you
business
need to
hours?
get in there, I know that I attended one meeting that was after business hours.
Yeah,
And
so-
you made arrangements for somebody to let you in and be there, and so if that has to happen, at least there's an arrangement, is that?
Yeah, so for example, we have an evening event committee meeting on Thursday. Caroline Miller, the treasurer, she's part of our volunteer crew, committee, so she's gonna make sure the building is secure and no one's
Right.
downstairs by themselves or anything like that. yeah.
My objective is just to make sure you're not handicapped with, you can't do something because if that is the case, we need to know, because there are other options, whether it be my place, whether it be a storage place, what have you, so I got it, so you're good.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Are you guys currently looking for new space? Based on that, I'm not sure if it's the same email.
Yes.
It was projected, you guys are currently looking.
Right.
Yeah, we're
Trying to stay ahead of the game, yeah.
Right, yeah, because with it, we do realize that the only reason that we are still under lease with the village is just due to the fact that it was a stalemate vote. I mean, it was 3-3. So one more person, which will eventually be filled, it could go either way at that point. We know that most likely we will be moving on from that space, and we don't want to find ourselves in a situation where we're
We have to
scrambling with only
scrambling,
30
yeah.
days, so we're trying to be proactive about it. Since it was brought forward by the president, we're aware that it would be better for her if we were not there, so we're just trying to kind of play our part and do what is best for our employees so that there's a productive space for her to work out of, and that we're not interrupting anybody and being just, we can hopefully thrive anywhere, but we don't want to be caught off guard. That's our goal. Hopefully that answers your question.
The GFL waste hauler service and rubbish millage, this was brought up at last month's meeting. I don't have any documentation. Has anything been talked about, or?
There's been no communication from the village on this as far as where that may or may not go, so I don't know quite what to do with this. Just keep putting it on the agenda until we get some information.
I wouldn't put it on the agenda until we have information, I guess, right? Because if there's nothing to discuss.
Not necessarily, I mean, it's good to have placeholders, I think, and keep it in front of us, we don't forget about it, I mean, my opinion.
What's holding up the information?
We haven't gotten anything back from the village as
Like,
to, they're
are-
capturing a tax.
No, I understand that, but
okay.
what's holding up getting the information? Is there not transparency? I don't understand how do we get the information?
Does this board have a question?
Any
What
insight?
question?
Well, the question was that this is being collected, but the building owners are still paying for trash pickup.
But then there's been no request to the board or anywhere that I should even know that I'm supposed to be looking for something here.
But we brought it up last month, so we thought maybe you might look at it, because you said you were unaware of that.
Right. and
We've
then-
communicated in the office, but there hasn't been any response.
And I don't even know
So-
that it was on here until I get the agenda.
So can we formulate a question that we, need answered?
I guess the question is, what is the process gonna be going forward by the village collecting this tax revenue, yet the building owners are still paying for pickup? I guess that's the question.
So would you like me to take that to council?
Yeah,
Okay.
please, thank you. Vacant board member position.
Can we do a motion on it though, just so that it's all clear, the wording, and it's, when I get to council, they can say,
It's fair.
it's not just a question, it's a motion from the DDA asking.
I'm
answer.
curious, Megan, does everything have to go to council for requests or questions like that, or is that something you can just do, or does that have to go through the council?
Depends on what it is, when it's a large contract such as this, dealing with a lot of money, I would prefer to defer to council.
I don't think it's the money.
Yeah, we're
It's
just
the way it's being allocated
get the
into
information.
It's
I
like,
think we're looking for any, directions right now. I think we need more intel and data to.
and it's
be
not
brought
just
to
our
us.
downtown businesses,
So-
this
so
is
then what
affecting the.
That's exactly to my point, though, what is the question? What are you directing me to even find out?
Maybe this would be helpful. If we were to just request the monetary amount of
Because you could
the
FOIA any of this
CBD.
information you want, but I need a specific question.
What
are
we're
we looking
asking
for?
is the revenue the village is collecting for the trash pickup from the industrial sector in our downtown businesses. How is that being allocated, and how are we going to help these business owners that are still paying for their own pickup?
Should we focus strictly on the CBD?
Well, probably, yes.
So let's do that. So if we could get an explanation of the rubbish millage and what that amounts to for the central business district, and then just provide that information to the board. Is that something we could make the motion on?
Sure.
So, if I could just speak, there was the village accountant is able to pull this data, and we can get a quote from GFL to find out what this would cost to get, some of this other coverage for other people. So it's already been in the works. It had been started with the previous president. So we have, some of that is already in the works, if the current president would like to pursue some of that. So there's some data that can be collected, I shouldn't say easily, but can be done simply. If we could have that conversation, Megan, if you'd like to have a meeting, with Danielle, we can, and we already have, we have the contact information from GFL where they're ready to, give us a quote on this as far as what this would take.
Could that
to
just be
get
a
those
question
businesses.
for the accountant then? Could we just send an
It can,
email
but
to
it
the
has to,
accountant?
but it has to come
So
from,
again,
it has
so
to
then
come
what
from
are
the
you
village
asking?
office.
If you have the information or it's easy to get, you're not asking for information. That's what I don't understand.
Well, we
what
need
you're
the
asking for.
cooperation from the village office to work with us on that. That's where it has to come
On
from.
what? I'm asking, what is the goal? What are you asking for?
Pursuing quotes, as far as what that would cost to expand the contract to include the businesses that are not getting the
Can
service.
we have a motion to that effect? Is that what this board is asking?
Yeah, I mean, essentially what's stopping us from getting that bid? Does it have to go through the village, or would it be more favorable if it went through the village as opposed to our DDA if we were getting a quote from GFL just for the CBD?
You
Could
have
we
to
do
figure
that?
out who's not getting it, and who is getting it.
But
So
we have that data though, right?
They have to pull it. It's not as simple as
And
just.
just so
But
you
who
know,
is-
our
who
lease
is-
hauler contract at the village is up this year. We will be bidding that out. I believe it's not up till the fall, so that will be on something we will be working on.
But how would we know that, how would we know who's going to opt into it or not without, like, literally asking every single property owner in the
Well, if I
CBD?
understand it correctly, everybody's paying for it right now and has been paying for it, so that's another question too. Where's this money, how much has been collected and where's it been going, and how do they get it back since they received no service or for years maybe?
Well, right, but then we should have that information as to
That's right.
who's.
Megan, I'll lay it out again, like, Kelly said. Can you have your accountant or somebody sit down and explain how much money's been collected, on an annual basis? And then I guess we'll have to petition the council or something to find out about what happened to that money and how's it gonna go back to those business owners. There's a lot of folks who own buildings and pay for this stuff and have gotten nothing for years. Are you reading what I'm saying? Does that make sense? I can reiterate it a different way if that doesn't make sense.
I believe Elizabeth has touched on that she could ask the accountant that
Okay.
works with the DDA here
Perfect.
for all of that information. That's what
Yeah.
I'm asking. What do you want from me then? You're saying
I
this
guess
is
the green
directed
light to
towards
get in
me,
there.
but Elizabeth can get the information that you're requesting. So what would you like?
Well,
from
what
me?
would council's opinion be of collecting this money over nobody knows how long, yet these people have not gotten the service? I guess that would be the
Can't
question.
speak for council.
I'm asking that question.
And
Well,
that's where I'm
let's
saying,
first
if there
gather the
is a step-
information, how much money it is, and then we'll try to, get a calculation, and then that'll be something council can start discussing with the building owners and property owners in the downtown district, which is a legitimate question.
Right, and if there's a time that comes, then please make a motion and bring something to the table
So it's not just the businesses in the central business district, it's also the industrial park and all the other
Right, but
businesses
that-
But that
within the
doesn't
village.
affect-
That has
that
nothing,
doesn't-
right, but they can do the quote for everybody.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't, for them just to do it for.
Well, I think letting those folks know out there and, that, you know, that they would have to work on that themselves. I mean, we just.
Right, we're
this
only
board-
looking out for
yeah.
the DDA district.
So when the accountant proposed that it was, she said since that money needs to be spent for what it's collected for, it needs to include all the businesses within the village, not just the DDA. So she's suggested, so perhaps maybe Megan, we can just sit down with Danielle and understand where she was going with that, because I can't speak eloquently to that, because I don't have enough knowledge, to do that, so.
Because we're not because we as the DDA wouldn't be quoting
No.
any, we
No,
wouldn't
that-
be getting bids for anything.
No, the data that has to be collected, having the accountant do that, that's outside of the DDA, that cost
Right.
should not be incurred by us, because it's a hefty hourly rate. So finding out how that can be done, that's why the accountant was looking for some direction from the village president, so.
This quote needs to be done by the village, not the DDA.
Right.
Because the quote is affected by the size of
Yeah.
the contract, which exists beyond the DDA. If just the DDA were looking for their quote for the contract, it may be a completely different figure.
No,
So
we agree.
I would, right, so I would propose that we ask, I mean, the village, whether it be through the president, through the council, I don't know who, to assist the DDA to try to get us some data which will allow the DDA board to inform the businesses they have been paying X for rubbish hauling, rubbish pickup, and they can either opt in to use that, which I do recall over the years has been discussed, or you can pay your own dumpster, your own pickup, but they need to at least be informed of it.
But John, what if,
So that's, if I'm speaking correctly, what we're doing here, and we need the village assistance to find those figures, because those figures are gonna be different for just the DDA than it would be for the entire village contract. If this makes
I think
sense.
this is as simple as a meeting between the
So-
president, myself, and the accountant to say, okay, what is it that you were looking to do before with the former president? I mean, it can be probably a 5-minute conversation, but I need direction
But-
to see if that's what you guys want.
well, I think we need to know if the village plans on pursuing this further. Are they going to go out and get bids?
Right, and that's what the accountant is waiting for direction from the village president.
Right, because at that point, if they don't, then this board could decide to pursue it separately,
On
and
our
at
own.
that point, we would just be getting bids for the CBD.
At that time, we could go and get our own bids.
Right, right. Okay.
But who's gonna pay that bill when it comes in? We have to compel the village to pay, cause they're collecting the tax.
Exactly,
There's a lot of money there that we're talking about that's floated around, and there's a lot of unanswered
Well, let's
questions.
get the accountant.
Yeah.
So
good
can,
idea.
so is can the board request of the village president a
Meeting.
meeting with Elizabeth and the accountant and Elizabeth, you're clear on what numbers we're trying to extract in order to help in that meeting, right?
I mean, and that's based on what the accountant is coming asking for, so yes, I think so. It's a question mark?
Well, I think Danielle comes with the knowledge.
Yep,
So the two of
absolutely.
you need
So-
to have that conversation
So
with her.
unless it's not clear, Megan, you're asking for a question, that's the question. Can you have a meeting in the next 2 weeks to discuss this, contract for waste management?
It's about just talking about a quote. I mean, again, it can literally take probably 5 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Does anybody want be part of that meeting at all,
I'd
or-
be glad to sit in.
Okay, great.
Does something like that, does the village have to send it out for a bid?
We're
No,
just gonna have a
she's just looking at
conversation.
the
We're just
numbers.
looking to have a conversation.
It's just to get preliminary numbers, nobody plans on?
No.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
The vacant board member positions, Megan brought to my attention tonight that the years of appointments have been skewed since 2019, and we thought there were 2 seats, but there's actually 5?
There seems to be 5 open.
Okay.
In 2019, 5 members were appointed, so their terms would be up January 2023. The following year, 4 members, which only 3 should have been, were appointed, and then that would take them to they have 1 more year left on their term.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 5 seats open currently.
Okay. So you are making your appointments at your next
At the
meeting?
January meeting, yeah.
Okay.
And I have letters of interest. Anybody else wants to send in letters of interest, welcome to, by January 12th. If any current board members are interested, whether I will assume that everybody is still interested, but if you would like, you can still send letters, the people that are up, which would be Miss Kellogg, Parker, myself, which, Zach, and you, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I will just assume everyone is still interested, and that goes for all the boards.
Okay.
Do you, how many letters for DDA have you received? Letters of interest?
7 or 8 off the top of my head.
Is there a, what I would call a mix regarding residents, business owners?
There's a couple, 2 or 3 residents, if I recall, and rest business.
The DDA is listed as 8 members.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, am I correct? That's the largest board that exists?
Our planning is 8.
It is 8?
No, can't
No,
be 8.
it can't be 8, no.
I have to look at it, 7 or 9.
Is it required that we have 8 members?
No, we
Anybody?
used to have less.
Anybody have any interest in discussing fewer members, maybe?
Well,
Is there,
Well,
what
Zach
are the,
might be
what are
able
the
to
pros
speak
and
to that.
cons?
there was a reason why we increased the number,
Mm-hmm.
and that was due to the fact that we were having a very difficult time having a quorum. There were multiple times where we would show up for a meeting, then we would all go home, and there would be no meeting because we didn't have enough people. We don't have that problem anymore. There is, most of us are here every single meeting, aside from the occasional person who gets sick. We've all been pretty good as far as attendance goes. We've not had that issue. It's really never happened since we increased the number. So,
Is that a nature of increasing the number or a nature of the
Right,
quality
that was-
of the members?
I'd say a little bit of both. I mean,
Well,
It gives you the leeway, though.
Well, but there's also more, I mean, let's face it, there's a ton more energy going on.
Yeah,
I mean, we
no,
have a
I'm
full-time director.
I'm interested in the
Yeah, it was keeping
positives
everybody
and,
pretty busy.
But I think the increased number gives you more leeway to have a quorum to run your meetings.
and I think if there's gonna be more involvement of like subcommittees and stuff like that, I
You
think
can't
having
tax
more.
the same people.
Right, I think having more people adds to that pool, and I think it's always good to get other people's perspectives, but I definitely get where you're coming from. It's like, do you don't necessarily need to replace that, but then we'd have to redo the bylaws, I think, to change that, and I think we're better off just keeping the open seats, filling the open seats, but that's just my opinion.
It's actually per the village ordinance. It says 8 board members plus the village president.
Because we adjusted the ordinance at that time, which you could readjust it down, but everybody's point.
I would just hate to have the same problem again.
Situation,
Yeah, where
yeah.
we're, especially, and that was at a time where we could afford to all go home and reschedule the meeting. I think we have a lot more on our agenda than we used to. There used to be times where you get an email 2 weeks before the meeting, say, nothing to talk about. Let's, no meeting this month. That doesn't happen anymore.
So, if you're interested, there are 5 seats open. Megan is accepting letters until January the 12th at the village. Can they just walk them in?
Either that or email.
Email, okay. And she will be making her appointments. Now, the council meeting's been moved
To the 23rd.
to 23rd because of Martin Luther Day. So 23rd, 7 o'clock. Here.
Correct.
Okay. New business, office space option. Do you want to speak to this,
I can, sure.
or do you want me to?
It's up to you. You found it. This lady's found a gem of an opportunity for the DDA, so I think you should definitely be able to do this.
Well, when we found out that it was the possibility of us being terminated from the village offices, I thought, to John's point, to look ahead rather than be caught up in, you're out in 30 days kind of thing. I bank at People Driven Credit Union. Tom and I used to be part owners in Brokers Network, which they housed upstairs. So I went to the manager, and that day, Emily, the family that owns People Driven Credit Union, was in the building, and she took me upstairs, and they had been, since they've located here in downtown Romeo, been looking to use that space as a community give back. So I said, would you consider housing the DDA? So Elizabeth's done a lot of the going back and forth with them. So do you want to talk a little bit about that then?
Sure, I'd be happy to. There's a lot, it didn't come into fruition until today, so the timing of it worked out for the meeting, and we wanted to make sure to, again, kind of get going with this. And so, well, I guess can I just read her letter and then do this backstory? Okay, so this is a letter from their Chief Operations Officer. Dear Elizabeth, it was recently brought to our attention that the DDA is in need of a new lease space. People Driven Credit Union currently has unused space located above our Romeo branch that may meet your needs. We believe a partnership with the DDA and the credit union is a win-win opportunity for both organizations. The DDA could provide the credit union with a top-level sponsorship at all events in exchange for People Driven Credit Union
providing space, including utilities for the DDA use. Please note that this is not a lease agreement, only a letter of interest to provide lease space to the DDA upon successful negotiation of terms described in a formal lease. If you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to call me. I look forward to hearing from you.
So, I got my composure back, I think. With this, it's a space, it's kind of stuck in the 80s a little bit, but
it looks just like Brokers Network worked in.
But I have reached out to many people that needs paint, carpet, some plumbing work, some electrical work, and we have several contractors who are willing to do it at cost and donate their time and labor on a pro bono basis, and they can be used as sponsors we can use them as sponsors for the DDA. It's a huge deal. There are 9 offices, a huge communal space that can be used, plenty of room for us to display some of what we're doing. And what's exciting about this is, about a year ago, I'm hoping you all will start to listen to the In My Downtown podcast, because the Michigan Downtown Association has, there's a couple key spaces, and I know sometimes I do wax long, but some of this information is important for people to hear, because it's, we have an opportunity here. Yes, it's under duress. Yes, it is what it is, but we found a diamond in the rough in downtown. And really, if it wasn't for Kelly, I didn't even know there was an upstairs there. I just thought they were big windows. I had no clue it was a space. There's a podcast from last year that Charlevoix was featured, because they have this business incubator space that a real estate company had vacated. It was still full of furniture, it still had office equipment, and so they gave it to the DDA to use, and so businesses started to pursue it and use it, and then the pandemic happened. And then it continued to be used, but in a different capacity. Since then, there's a couple that got married because they met there. So it's just kind of some fun stories of things that have happened. And when I went and talked to Emily, she said, we've had a vision of being involved in the community. How could we create a business space where businesses can meet? And in a lot of communities, the DDA is the vehicle to make those things happen. Right now, you can't meet in a library, for example. If you're a for-profit, you can't reserve the space because it's meant to be, open for nonprofits and so forth. So it's not just, we're talking about a space of probably almost 2,000 square feet. free of charge with a 5 to 10 year lease. It includes utilities. We'll be able to use some other services that would be included in that. And they have a chief experience officer who's coming from a branch down in Livonia. And I had a wonderful conversation with him. His name is Steve Schmidt. He was hoping to be here tonight, as was Emily. But they have partnered with their chamber down there. They have something that they jointly did with Livonia called Healthy Livonia. So he was excited to see that we were doing a 5K, because he said that's something that the city of Livonia, the chamber, other community groups, they went in and sponsored all of these things to create these initiatives. He said that's what you have the opportunity to build here in this space. You know, and to President Poznanski's point, you know, we do take a decent space now, and we've have so many volunteers. This will allow us to be able to use that space. A little icing on the cake, there's actually quite a bit of it, but one of them, I'll tell you, is they said, oh, and by the way, we're changing all of our office furniture. You can have all of that too.
It's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And so we already have a plumber committed to donate his time. We've got some electrical, so I'm pretty excited about that. I had our accountant, so I guess let me go back to this. I have a couple notes. So I guess I want to begin with the end in mind of what could happen with this. You know, what if we could fill all of these offices up with businesses that want to succeed, but they don't have or can't afford office space? We can help facilitate them being able to use that. You know, what else could we do? The sky's the limit. There's a lot of things that we can do. Our budget is small, but our strength and our drive is mighty, as you all know. In the last 15 months, we've accomplished the following. All new accounting system, Winterfest in 45 days, streamlined communication between the board, the Central Business District, a general newsletter to over 1,500 people. A whole new website, a new logo, rebranding the complete downtown, social media expansion, SEMCOG partnerships, Macomb County partnerships, our volunteer network, and so forth. Now imagine what can happen if we get into this new space. And I'm excited about that. I will miss the camaraderie of the office. However, they can come over and have lunch with us. They're welcome anytime. So I had Danielle, our accountant, look at the budget. Zach had a couple questions about that. Because to get a long-term lease agreement with them, it comes as is. So it needs paint, it needs carpet. We have 2 bathrooms up there, needs some plumbing work done and some electrical. They are interested in doing a long-term lease with us if we do some improvements. And so with some of the pro bono work that people are willing to do, you can see the letter I included. We could take $5,000 from the parking and wayfinding, since between now and June 30, most likely will not have a way to spend all of that. And we can also take $10,000 from the lighting globe replacement, and we can do a budget amendment. She said if we waited until March, it would be okay. And what I'm requesting is that we have an amount not to exceed $15,000 for the building improvements, so that we can get a long-term lease and have a home for a long time. And we can hang our shingle outside the door. We have to put a permit out, of course, with the village to hang that. But we'll have our own access. We have a kitchen. There's a basement to store some of the snowmen. So.
And in reality, that's like, what, maybe a year and a half what we would spend on rent going anywhere else.
Yeah, do we have any realtors in the room?
It's such a small amount that we would make
Well, we're not
back
going to get
tenfold
free
over.
rent anywhere else.
Oh, well, and
Right.
especially not for that size space. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, over 10 years, isn't that like $100,000 gift?
Mm-hmm.
That's
I mean, just rent,
in 5 years, it's $250 a month.
yeah.
Yeah,
How do
so
you access the space?
Front door.
You're not going into the bank?
No.
Yeah, so they have a separation. There's a
Vestibule?
foyer. There's a
Okay.
foyer, completely separate, locked.
There's stairs up, and then there's their doors.
Completely
And then there's access to a shared, full kitchen that by a key code and whatnot, so.
And parking.
And, yeah, and plenty of parking in the back, and, yeah. Seats for the parades. Anybody wants to come up to my office, you could, could wave to Donna from across the street, maybe. So.
Well, I guess the question is, we're pursuing this, correct?
I don't see how we couldn't. It's such a small cost on our end, and we don't have to worry about anything for the next 5 to 10 years, and, you know, we can settle in, and I think it'll give us room to grow, and expand and do more with that space. There's even, you know, so I don't know what you need from us at this point, just to say like a motion on that not to exceed 15,000.
And we probably need.
They can redo that, cause we're gonna have to approve the lease, I would assume at some point, or?
Well,
can
you
we-
could if you wanted, so that's a good question. So what you could do is you could say, to grant permission for the board chair to enter into a lease agreement with People Driven Credit Union, on the terms to be agreed upon, in the terms to be agreed upon. Because they were just waiting to hear back, before they send it. Their legal's already taken a look at, it, but they were waiting to see if we all were interested.
I mean, absolutely interested, that's I think a no-brainer, at least from my end. But we need to see the details, obviously. We're not just blanket enter into an agreement.
No,
As Zach
that's
said,
what
we need to see it.
We would
Just-
look
yeah.
at the details of the
We've gotta look at
lease.
it, as well as the finances too, not just a blanket, oh, let's go, 15,000, let's see, what are we doing? What are we gonna do, who's gonna do it?
Well, I wanna be that's fine, John, but I personally don't wanna, be involved in, you know, what she's painting and not painting. I mean, Elizabeth, in my opinion, has demonstrated, easily that, you know, handling these types of projects and getting it done and talking to local contractors to, actually make this happen. But whatever, we just wanna be careful what we're asking ourselves. I don't think she needs to be hogtied by 4 meetings to decide if it's gonna be brass fixtures or
Greg,
brushed.
I'm sorry, but for $15,000,
That's fine, you can,
We
and that can
need-
be, I'm just saying, I'm not gonna do it. You're welcome to
that's fine.
sit in on those and do that.
I hear a lot about, we're
I
getting
trust
this
her.
for free, we're getting this for free, we're getting all this furniture, we're gonna get painters, this is great, it's all for free.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with that. But when we start tapping into the budget, we can't just have a blank
That-
check.
And I get
We
that,
have
it's not
done
a
that
blank check,
before.
it's a blank check for renovations, so.
Well, I don't think it's a blank check. She
Right.
put a cap of 15,000 not to exceed it.
But you could, John, you can participate in that if that's
No, I-
what you wanna do.
I mean, I understand, and don't take this wrong. Simple thing like carpet. Carpet's old, it needs to be replaced. It probably does. Just using that as an example, you just spent this on the carpet, now what about the other thing that might come up? Now we're gonna be tapping into more
I
money.
think we have to, I think we can trust our employee to do it, that's what I think, but that,
Okay.
again, you,
Well, really quick, can I just say something, like, so if we're gonna go and do an event, we give a not to exceed amount, and it covers it encompasses everything that is required for that event to take place. So if we're saying that it's 15,000 for these, the renovations to this office space, would that kind of be the same
What is
thing?
what do the renovations include? I guess is really all I'm
What if
asking to.
Elizabeth in the next day provides this board by email a list of, because you've been doing your homework over the weekend.
I have 5 or 6 pages listed, yes. I
Yes,
have.
if you come out with a documented list of approximate cost, who's donating their time, what this is all gonna entail, so that,
Because kind of what you're asking is, you came up with 15 grand somehow. He just, what does that all?
Well, that's what I'm
into?
asking him to do,
That's all
yeah.
he's asking.
yeah,
Sure,
just-
I've been told, so here's what I've been told. I've been told that $15,000 is dreaming, and I said, watch me.
okay,
So
but
in
I
other
get
words,
that.
it's way more than that, but
Oh,
already. Oh, I don't know what,
I got your attention, Chairman Steve. I'd like to make a statement. Is that possible?
Go to
oh, the podium, apparently.
Okay.
You have to come to the podium, over there, yeah. But we have some quotes already, I'd be happy to talk about those tonight.
Okay, my recommendation, coming from the planning commission, not the planning commission, but my personal recommendation, make a motion to move forward with this project, subject to all of the issues you're concerned about, the $15,000. That will at least lock it in, that you can go and know you've got a way to move forward. Now, myself, also as a property owner in the village, I am willing to provide this board any time at my property to have events, whatever it takes to make it work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So to make a motion to move this forward, with Elizabeth providing us a list of what the improvements would entail, not to exceed $15,000, but so that we can secure this space with people driven.
Can I,
Oh, go ahead.
so, in the letter from People's Driven, or People Driven, it's a letter of interest to provide lease space to the DDA upon successful negotiation of terms described in a formal lease agreement. Can we just simply approve the DDA to go into negotiations of the lease
Right.
and, you know?
Yes, and typically that would be the board chair who would sign that.
But I,
But still
we
do
all,
the due diligence, yeah. It's still-
everybody would get to, you know.
But we don't
get
have to approve a monetary amount at this time.
No, because you still have to make budget amendments. This
Right,
isn't-
which Danielle, the
yeah.
budget amendments can come,
But then
we
it has
can
to be
approve
approved
it,
by
but
the
you
board,
can.
correct?
We don't have to do that
Or council?
tonight.
I don't know if we
though.
have to approve your amendments, or if you do them and then we approve them, which way that goes.
No, you
Okay,
can,
I'd have to clarify.
Okay.
so you can make them, if it were to be approved, Danielle said the amendments could wait it could wait a month, it's not
So we're
urgent
only
to get them
amending our
done.
own personal,
Because you're
what
not
we have
expanding
right
the
now.
budget, you're just moving it around.
Yeah, so I think that's okay. Okay.
So we don't have to know the
No,
monetary amount
no.
at this time.
But is there a motion on the table to move forward with this offer from People Driven Credit Union?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Everybody in favor?
Okay, whoa, hold on a second.
Okay.
So the motion is to enter into lease agreement with People Driven, right?
Negotiation.
Ah, okay.
Discussion, yeah, negotiation.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nobody opposed, okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, honestly, it is completely, Kelly's the one who found it. I would have never even had a clue that that was even there. And if I may, this is a very generous offer from people. Yes, they'll get more publicity. Yes, we're really good at marketing. Yes, we're really good at our jobs. But this is a huge give for them as well. And it's a pretty exciting endeavor.
Absolutely.
Okay. Communication with the Village of Romeo,
May I ask, so are we not doing any type of motion for,
not until after the negotiation of the lease.
okay. So, will I have permission to call a special meeting then within the next week or so?
Mhm.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. The communication with the Village of Romeo, I'm not quite certain what,
I just need some direction as to what the communication between, the village staff with the village president, you know, it's difficult having a conversation. So typically in the past with the former president, we would talk about things, hey, how does this work? We're just, I mean, I'm looking for direction from the board, for, you know, we have a 2023 events and banner calendar that was approved. So we have a lot of events, several events coming up. We have a banner schedule, and so forth. I would like to ensure that we have the ability to not be concerned that we may have forgotten a permit or something be done, and then the day of an event, well, sorry, you didn't cross that T or dot that I, so your band can't perform, or the Winterfest 5K can't take off, or, we just need to be able to know with full clarity, how do we communicate? Cause the communication's very different than it was, and so I need to know how to pivot to that, and I'm looking for direction from the board, so that there's a streamlined process to however you choose what it might be.
How do we previously, if we wanted a sign permit, how would we, did we fill out a form and submit it to the office, or was it just, sure, no problem, I'll take care of that?
The only sign permit we've filled out is for what are those things called? The shingle and the bracket that we put up. So yes, we completed all that.
So
The
what-
village in the past has waived some of the fees because we're a mutually beneficial governmental body, so
Sure.
the fees have typically been waived, which we're grateful for. I would imagine you all are grateful for, it's your budget. I never knew that you had to have, I was not aware that you have to have a sign, that you have to have a sign permit for, like, say, A-frames. Didn't know that. So my sign was removed. But since we do events and we put signage up to say, come here, go there, and I don't know what the protocol will be. I'm wondering, can we have some sort of I would imagine that the DUDA would have a different type of, not leniency, that's not the word, but like a different arrangement, because if you're promoting events, you need your signage to be out there. But if, the way the sign ordinance reads now for an A-frame, for example, you can only have it up during office hours. Well, we're kinda open 24/7, we're advertising 24/7. So,
But we do still have to follow the ordinances that are in place. It doesn't exempt us from those ordinances just because we could promote ourselves 24/7. We, it might be that ordinance might be in place because at night, the A-frame's a hazard to pedestrians who are out walking, and, there's a reason why they put those things in place, so I think we should
Sure.
follow them. But in the same breath, I think before, like, I know when we first started, if, your open sign wasn't allowed to be flashing. It had to just stay still. It was you couldn't have a flashing static light. But, what happened? Did they come take our open sign down? No, we got a letter that said, it's been brought to our attention, per the ordinance. So it would be nice just to have a little communication from that standpoint before maybe things get removed, just give us a heads up. I think we still need to follow ordinances though.
I don't think Elizabeth suggested we don't. She clearly has a job to do as a quasi-government entity, it's a taxing authority, we collect taxes, do we, or TIF, whatever you wanna say, but I think she's looking for a less of a hostile environment, and that's, I think that's the elephant in the room here is, and I don't know if anybody's at this table has an answer for you, unfortunately, Elizabeth. I don't think anybody can even explain why you have to even be taking all this time and your time, that is precious, and, you do a lot of great things. I don't know how you're gonna get through that, so I don't have an answer for her. Maybe, John, you do, maybe Megan can maybe give you guidance on how you can communicate with her more clearly, or, Kelly's got a lot of, chamber experience, perhaps she's run into some of these same problems and can guide you, and Zach certainly owned a successful business on Main Street for lots of years and doing retail and can maybe guide you, but.
Well, I'm wondering, going forward with new leadership, if you have a standard that you see these events need to be run by, if there's a way to have a checklist, that we would know exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, there is, and it's the event permit.
Okay,
Do you want more than that?
so every event we do, we should do everything.
We always have.
Okay,
but there's nothing
I
in there
recall
about
doing it
temporary
for,
signages or anything.
Harvest days, all the different events, we always have, even the over the street
well, I
banners,
think
we've applied
that's
for
been
that.
happening, but I hear that there's no communication with the two of you.
Well, which I'm confused by, because we talked about the sign, so there's been communications, there's been emails, there's times she stops in at my office door and says, hey, what about this? And we talk. There's other times she texts me and says, do you have time today? I say, nope, but I have time this other day.
Okay,
There's communication.
okay.
So this is what, maybe not as much as, I'm not like 100% available to Elizabeth.
Okay.
So we have A-frames that have signage advertising Winterfest. But what I'm asking is, how are we able to put up the signage? If we are, how soon and how far in advance? Can the DDA have some other, I don't know, like, you know, since there's an event, can it be out 5 days ahead of time, 24/7? I don't know, but because right now that's not how the ordinance reads. So perhaps there's some best practices that can be gained from other municipalities. Perhaps there can be, it might be best if someone on the board works with, I don't know, somebody else on the trustee board or with our clerk to get more clarity on that. But we certainly can't be the only community that's not quite sure what to do with event signage and how to use them. Because I certainly don't want to waste money on signage I can't use. And right now we have that.
Does it say anything in the ordinance? What does it say about temporary signage?
There's
Is it-
permits,
So you still need permits for temporary signage?
and you can only get so many a year.
It's a 17-page document. I have not had the opportunity to, my plate's been a little full, so.
I mean, if the concern is strictly, is the concern communication or is the concern the signage? Because I feel like if we don't necessarily like the way the ordinances are written or they need to be updated, then we could certainly make a recommendation to the village to say, you know, based on the level of business activity in town and the level of events that we're hosting, it would make sense to update some of these ordinances, and then that way there is no question of, you know, how long these signs can be out for. It's all written down, but, you know, just like any other business, it's gotta be followed, you know, and I don't know, that's my opinion.
So is the question for Winterfest signs? Is that what you're
That's the
asking?
most eminent. I mean,
Okay, have
sure.
you filled out the permit to have them out?
I have not done that. I'm waiting for direction from the board.
Then I think you need to go fill out the permit.
Okay.
Maybe, I'm sorry to go back to where Zach was.
You're going backwards again.
I know. The board, the DDA board needs to come up with a
request?
request to the village on how they're gonna handle the DDA, and here's why, and here's for what times, and, you know, during certain events, we would like permission for whatever you're saying, 24-hour, we would like 7 days straight, a week before. We need to come up with those guidelines that we can then take to the village.
Right, so then when the time comes and say this gets passed and a different business comes to me and says, how come they get to, it's all there. I can't hold one business to an ordinance and not another just because, well, they're.
Okay,
It's the DDA.
so
So that's another subject, but.
fill out the permit for the Winterfest signs.
Does this sort of scrutiny happen with the Beach Festival time? I've been here 50 years, I've never heard these things. Usually if if somebody's doing something in the village as a community entity, the Kiwanis, the whatever, they're, we do these things, all the time, and I've never heard these problems before. I don't really understand what happens during Peach Festival, Zach, and you've been doing this a long time. I mean,
Well, Grace has been doing it longer than I have, so she raised her hand. She can,
As far as I know, there's the sign above the street, and there's the post signs, I don't know what you call them, the banners. But there's been fewer and fewer of them as other events took their place. That's all I'm aware of. Is anybody else aware of any other?
but I would imagine those were probably all, the permits were filled out and for at least for the over the street.
Oh,
ones.
absolutely, yeah.
So I know the school always had to fill theirs out for
I mean, as
football.
a business owner, I would always submit a permit for out in front of my business if I wanted to use it. So, I mean, I think it's.
again, I understand the businesses, that's, I'm talking about this is another government entity, so I just, it's sort of odd to
That's-
me that there's.
So-
Well, and that's where we've waived the fees in the past, but you still
Fill out the paperwork, okay.
We always have.
And that's where I think we need to then go to the village with we would like exceptions here, here, and here, and here's why, and here's
Yeah,
why.
we have to make it easier for Elizabeth, she can't.
But if we have this in writing,
Yeah.
there's no guessing.
I agree.
So,
Great, good
So-
stuff.
one of the forms that needs to be done, just so that we're not having this discussion.
So can I ask Elizabeth, we are talking about signs for Winterfest, and I think Kelly is requesting, making sure we have the permits filled out. Is there anything else for Winterfest do we need? 5K run, you had referenced maybe
already-
if we show up at 5K and there's an issue, is there anything else we, as a DDA, need to make sure we have in order? so
I
that
think
there's-
that's her concern. She
That's my
doesn't know.
concern, is that there's something we haven't done, and then we'll
So-
find out right before that we forgot to do something.
So can I
So I don't know.
direct this to Megan for a little bit of help? I
Well,
mean,
Elizabeth's already asked me this question when we were communicating, and I asked her, well, is there something you forgot that I don't know about? Well, no, well, neither do I. And I asked her, well, how did it go last year? Because I wasn't president last year, and I was in Mexico
So-
last
so I
year.
know-
So I don't know what, it's as if she thinks I'm like, I know something's wrong, but I'm withholding it from you guys to spring it on you at the last minute.
No.
In no such form.
But it may just be some things that we're not thinking about now that need to be addressed. So there is sort of like
It's
a
been
list of
approved by
events.
council.
I think she's
It's
a
gone to the
little
police
concerned
chief.
about a repeat of some of the stuff that happened out at the park, at the Christmas tree lighting and some of those things. I was not there, but I heard some of the stories of, last minute trying to redirect, shut things down, and
So if
she don't
there's
want
any-
those problems.
If there's any that maybe we can address or discuss now, I'm just trying to make
Right,
sure
and I
we don't
addressed that with
have.
Elizabeth when we were communicating, that as long as her event permit is properly filled out and she has the proper sign-offs from everybody, what is her worry that there wouldn't be any? It's properly done and signed off on, and council has approved it.
Council approved it, so.
So I don't know where this, is coming from.
I think the Christmas event is where it's coming from.
Are we talking about the Christmas event on
No,
Friday?
No, we're
where
talking
it
about
comes from.
Winterfest and
The concern.
Well, it's a
The
series,
permit has
it's
been
a
filled
series
out.
of unfortunate events, right?
Well, the
It's
Winterfest event, the permit has been filled out and approved by council
Correct.
for the event and for the 5K.
They are one and the same.
Okay.
Mhm.
The next thing to fill out is the permit for the signage. Okay? And then we have a few weeks before the Vintage Fest to figure the rest out.
Winter, thank you. It's
Vintage, I said.
Oh, yes, we do have several months for that, yes,
Can I
thank
make
goodness, yes.
one more request?
There you go again.
Maybe something's been overlooked to nobody's fault.
Well, and Megan
Can
just
I
said that.
ask-
She doesn't know what
can-
she doesn't know.
And
Right.
I'm not the one who signs off on the permit.
So can I ask the village trustees through Megan, should something arise last minute that, the board be notified as quickly as possible so we can do what we can to rectify it?
I don't foresee anything coming up that would shut down this event.
Okay, that's kinda all I'm saying. Should something arise that we don't know about,
It's communication,
yeah,
guys.
I guess if it's Elizabeth or Kelly, somebody is notified so we can
As long as you
make
properly
corrections.
fill out the permit, the clerk has signed off on it, the council has signed off on it, I don't know what the concern is.
Okay. Onward to closed session. I guess.
Did we skip over DDA
I
event
thought-
signage, or did we
I
cover
thought
it
it
with
kinda
that?
covers
Yeah, you
it.
guys
wasn't
kind
sure
of
if it
rolled
was
it,
something
yeah,
else.
we were gonna roll into that, yeah.
I think it's all encompassed in one. So with that, I guess I have to excuse the audience. Thank you all for
Do we
coming
have to-
tonight.
Do you have to make a motion first? Do we have to-
Is there water
I don't
here
know.
somewhere?